Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Creatives Ignite. And I am excited. I love meeting people who come at our field from a different, or maybe they started in a different way. I love the person that recommended you to me, Jesse McNeese, and I loved talking to you. So today we are joined with Kayhan, um, Atamyildiz. Atamyildiz.
Yes,
It's close enough. That's all I'm going to say is just, you could say your own last
it's
name from
it's
here.
it's close enough. It's perfect.
I've been practicing.
Atamyildiz.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I've been practicing, but here's the beautiful thing. I love you started. I want to make sure you tell this part of the story that you started out. You came to New York City, right?
Correct.
About how old were you when you came?
I think it's either 22 or 23 years old.
Okay,
Somewhere.
so yeah, so early on in your career, and you were a restaurateur. You owned a restaurant with some other people, correct?
That's correct.
So this is a very different start point for some people. And I mean, granted, I worked in restaurants as well at some point, but I love that you were solving problems that is totally a designer and totally you've been a graphic designer, or a web designer, and now a product designer. And you've led teams, you've been on teams, big corporations, you've worked for yourself, working with clients. So you've done a lot of things, but I love the way you love to solve problems. So give us a little bit of your background and a little bit about your career path so that we can kind of get the full picture and then what you're currently doing now.
So, hello everyone. Um, so I'm originally from Turkey, or right now I guess they are changing their name to Turkey,
Oh,
the country. Yes, it's just there's a petition going on, I guess, in United Nations. I don't know that much. So I'm from Turkey, I'm going to call, and I've been in the States since early 1980s. And the originally I came here to study economics and the MBA in, yeah, economics.
did you come to New York City to study
Yes,
economics?
yes.
Okay.
Um, so, but then things didn't go the way I expected. And the next thing you know, I'm not like going to school and I need to make money. And I found my way into the restaurant business, busboy, dishwasher, you name it. But then it became like just like learning quickly. And I found myself in a waiter and then a manager. And the next thing you know, um, I had two Italian friends that they were very strong in the kitchen. However, they needed somebody to run their floor. So I partnered with them and we opened up a restaurant in Soho. Um, so long story short, for the restaurant part of the business, um, it was great. It was wonderful. We were successful. We had some write-ups in the magazines. I think one of them is New Yorker magazine.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Actually, we had two write-ups. I'm sorry. I have to correct that. So, and the restaurant business was great. I was like you kind of like become a star if you are in the floor as well. And then you have all these friends coming in, and then you make your clients friends. But that was the front of the business.
Hmm.
The back, I guess that anybody that like worked in the restaurant business, it's just like crazy. It's chaos everywhere.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then how you control that? How you make a sense of that, like the craziness?
Because it is. There's always something, somebody didn't show up, or there's something that's we ran out of this, or we have to do this. And you talked about even figuring out how to solve problems for efficiency. Efficiency is huge. It also
Yeah,
is huge in our field as well, right?
yeah. As you mentioned, the like efficiency. The restaurant wasn't that big, and we figured but then we wanted to offer something that not that many restaurant was offering. It was an Italian restaurant, and we were specialized in pasta.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided that I think, if I'm not mistaken, we had about somewhere between 40 or 48 different kind of pasta
Whoa.
on the menu. But then speaking of efficiency, what we did was we sat down and we figured out a system that, okay, we are going to use three different sauces: olive oil, garlic sauce, tomato sauce, and cream sauce. From those three sauces, and then we are going to use for vegetables, 8 different vegetables and three different protein. And combining all these, we will create different kind of pasta dishes. One pasta dish
Right.
may have tomato sauce and mushrooms and some cheese, and the next one might have like shrimp and cream sauce. And that way, we were able to offer 48 dishes. Yet the kitchen was very solid. Just like we only had, let's say, 10 or 12 buckets or containers to hold all we needed for the entire process.
Because a lot of times in a kitchen, if you have a specialty thing that maybe people don't order as much, you might not order it, or you might not have as much on hand. And then you could have a run for it, or there's waste, right, that comes
Yeah,
in.
yes, correct. And then also you need to figure out a way that nothing is wasted.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also an important part of I think it's for every single restaurant. So we became very efficient in that fashion.
You told
Uh,
me about, and I don't know if I wrote this in the questions or not, but I'm going to ask this now. You
yeah,
said you created an algorithm to create pasta.
yes, that was the algorithm I was
Oh, the
talking about.
eight veggies, three proteins. Oh, okay. So
Yes,
then
yes,
that's what worked the whole restaurant then.
y-
Okay, I
correct,
love it.
correct. So the other aspect is, um, in a traditional restaurant, the busboy does the busboy job, the
Mm,
waitress does the waitress job, and then in the kitchen, there's the pecking order, the hierarchy. But
hmm.
we actually kind of scratch all that. We create a system that, including us, everybody was responsible from everything. If you're on the floor, it's also your job to help the
Mm.
customer. Like if you're a busboy, but then the waiter is busy, the I am busy, and the busboy had authority to help the people to be seated.
Hmm.
So we trained everybody to do almost everything.
That's
And then
awesome.
same for the kitchen. So in a way that there was no, if somebody is sick, you're not stuck.
Right. Oh, that's a
There's
good
all,
idea.
yeah. Or somebody decides to quit, you're not stuck. And it probably, again, the restaurateurs or whoever works in restaurant familiar with it, um, there is always a big chance that somebody may quit or may call sick. And you need to just always be ready for this kind of the drills that we were talking about, the tornado drill.
Right.
Yeah.
So, in from taking the restaurant kind of framework to then being a web designer, or then now product design and being on teams, do you kind of keep that same, like everybody can do lots of things, or is that more like you are able to do lots of things to be able to fill in the holes when holes come up. Is that more of a personal kind of way you look at how you are in a team, or is that how you like to set up a team?
That's like I kind of like carried that philosophy plus enhanced that philosophy into the design business.
Okay.
Let's say if I'm working with a like team or if I'm like just looking for a new person to come in, I'm always looking for how flexible they are, how hungry they
Mm,
are,
mm,
and are they ready to get their hands dirty? Let's say while they are working on, let's say, a design system, do they want to also design something else? Or
mm,
if they want to learn like designing with the codes,
right.
like instead of traditional design tools. So those little experiences I had in the restaurant business, it's carried over to the design, like my design practice, I'm going to say,
Yeah.
including myself. I like to learn new tools. I like to learn um, new technologies.
Hmm.
So I like to work with people that they actually also like to learn. I mean, curious people, I'm going to call them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how do you, in an interview, when you're trying to find, or maybe it's before the interview, like, how do you, like, if you're just looking at somebody's resume, how do they sell themselves as being hungry? Um, what do you look for? What do you notice about people either in an interview or even before the interview? What would you see in somebody who is hungry?
So maybe this is going to sound a little strange. I like when I look at a resume first, I usually skip the where they worked and what they
Mhm.
did. I look for hobbies. I look for if they are talking about a hobby, like or just they also list their achievements.
Hmm.
So I look for the like the hobbies, interests, and the achievements first.
And
And
you've
then
worked
if
for some big companies. These are,
yeah,
I mean, these are companies everybody's known. People in entertainment. These are companies that
yeah,
deal with entertainment. Different networks. Like you're in New York. It's not like you doing these tiny little things. Like you've worked for some big companies. I love that you're saying I want to see these hobbies. I want to see how they're
yeah,
integrated in. Or keep going.
yeah. So then another aspect is it's, as I am as a design practitioner, I'm kind of an outsider because I didn't go to school. Yes, I went to school to learn graphic design, but it was kind of a transition period between traditional graphic design and using computer to do graphic design. So I was more interested in learning with the computer.
Right, right,
So and then I'm like, I learned all I know is mostly like on the field. I learned from just practicing, being curious, and then just reading, like
right.
going to courses and all that. Um, and yes, there is an advantage having a design background, but then most of my career, I end up working with people that they didn't have a traditional design background, education. Like one of the people that I work with, um, they had a fashion design background, and then another one is journalism, a lawyer who
Mm,
became like decided to become a user researcher.
mm, cool.
Yeah, so Then I'm looking for like how adaptable they are, and
So,
then what
what is
they're
something that shows you that someone's adaptable? Like, what is a telltale sign?
like from the resume easily like okay if they have different hobbies and they have different interests. And then usually the interview starts with not asking traditional interview questions. It's more like maybe they like we do things certain things. For example, in while we were hiring a person, somebody just came with this idea that when you go interviews, you go with the person's resume.
Hmm.
Somebody in the team came up with this idea, or maybe it was an accident happened. They printed the person's resume on a tabloid paper, huge, massive, just like.
Yes.
And then that became actually like a very interesting way to start a resume. I mean, start an interview.
Hmm.
They were like shocked to see some of them were like, oh my God, like my resume this big.
Yeah.
So, um, what we were saying, I'm lost now
Oh
a
no,
little
it's
bit.
okay. So going from your kind of background, and I had asked you about like how do you look for people? How do you see somebody who's hungry? So if you're because I think some people are hungry, but they don't know how to show it. But really, you're
Yeah,
telling us how to do that. It's
yeah,
being interested in other things. If somebody says, well, can you do this? Yeah, you can. But if you're like, well, that's not my job description, that's not in my job, then that person is not for you. Like you're saying,
no,
like
no,
that is not what you would want anybody to
yeah,
say. And I think
yeah,
one thing that was really interesting to me about the restaurant is that you were really solving problems that were not just restaurant problems. These are web design problems, these are product problems, these are in a hospital problems. This is just function. Like, is this functioning um efficiently but also productively? Are people stuck not knowing what to do if so and so's not here? Like there's just so much like time efficiency, but also like how can you help better if somebody's struggling? Like instead of just watching them struggle, you're going to be able to sweep in and help. And it really is, it seems like it's so much more team oriented instead of just roles are siloed out.
yeah. That's actually very accurate description. Like it's just like mostly team oriented. You're a team, not only as a design team, you're part of extended team, a
Mm-hmm.
bigger team.
How do you go from doing um, web designer, doing more graphic design? You kept saying yes. I think this is another key for you of like, well, sure, I'll try. But it's also how do you get to product design? Because it seems like a lot of people that I've talked to have a different, there's no one there's not you go A and then step B and then oh you're a product designer. Like it seems very varied how people get to that end, and I love your story. So um I guess I would love for you to tell them like how, but I think some of it was that you were just, you saw opportunities and you just started taking opportunities and asking for opportunities.
So yeah, like as mentioned, my career, I started I started work for back then. I think that doesn't exist anymore. Biography magazine.
Biography. Okay. Yeah. Biography
Yeah,
magazine.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just helping them their layouts and photography team. Just and we were in the same building with the A&E television networks,
Mm-hmm.
web or what's called then back then interactive media team
Mm-hmm.
who handle their websites like, and we are talking about back then there were three websites, three different brands and three different websites. And somehow somebody in that team was looking like they were using an external agency and getting the site updates done through the external agency, but they were not always available, and they always had, okay, you need to give us 2 days notice or
Right.
something. And I don't remember how it happened. I guess somebody in my team told, why don't you ask Kayhan? Or they were like, can we ask Kayhan if he can help us here? And I ended up creating a graphic or two for them. Uh, Simple things. And then that became like, I'm like, sure, I'll do those. Just like, tell
Did
me
you
what
have
you're
to
looking.
upload it also?
No, we gave to an external team.
Okay.
Just
But
we,
then you figured that out at some point.
yes. This like that's part of the, being curious,
But it's
being,
also efficient because it's wasting money to go outside time wise because now it's going to take 2 days to get the external team when you could do it in house. Then, if you still have to send it to them, it's also costing money and it takes extra time. So, I just, because I know just from talking to you, you're like, yeah, well, then we ended up doing it in house
yeah.
because you could do it or you figured it out. Nothing was too big that you were like, I can't do that.
Yeah, like you're like, wait a second, it's doable. Like let me try. And then the next thing you know, like you are doing uh graphics for websites, and then suddenly they are asking you, well, we need this section to be redesigned. Can you? I'm like, they're at the headline on the headlines. I'm like, oh, but yes, yes, I'll do it.
And so at this time in your career, I just kind of want to remind people because sometimes I think we end up saying, ooh, I don't know. But I think sometimes it's just worth it to just try and then learn while you try instead of saying no. So even if you didn't, you're like, somebody else did it. I could try. We could always make it better. Right. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes what I see a lot, at least with my students, is sometimes they're just even afraid to try because they don't want to mess something up. But I don't know if that's ever been something that you have identified with. Like you've just been able to be like, well, let's go for it. We can fix it if I mess it up.
So that's a good point. Also, like something that didn't resonate with me, graphic design is when you're done, you're done.
Hmm.
It's just like it's went to the printer printed. Oh my God, the typo. Oh my God, there's this extra spacing between the two letters. It's like, but then on the digital platforms, it's like, fine, we'll fix it. We'll make it better. We'll improve it. Let's
Hmm.
send out the very early version. It'll be only saying hello. The next one, just hello with a photo. The third one, hello photo, and then the navigation. So
And
you,
these weren't small. Like A&E is a big global brand. So you're
you
having stuff that it's not just on this little stage. So sometimes I think it can be where how did that never get in your head because you were just moving so fast you couldn't be like, oh my gosh, or you just were like, okay,
um,
I'm stepping it out just like you would at the restaurant.
so it, I looked at it as a natural process.
Hmm.
I never looked at it as like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, there's a problem. Yes, it's a design problem, but how we can solve it for the given time, given resources, and given, let's say, the experience I have.
Mm-hmm.
So you solve it, and then you get better, and then you improve it.
Mm-hmm.
You never leave it alone. And luckily, again, as I mentioned, digital technologies and digital platforms, you can always improve. And then that actually became the one of the main principles of product design: ship it, refine it, ship it, refine it. Just put it in front of the user, see their response. Based on the response, if anything needs to be improved, improve, and then ship and test it again.
So
So that,
do you see a
yeah.
difference between or was it just seamless, like going from web design or digital interactive media to product design?
So, well, the only difference is the way that we are phrasing it. Back
Mm,
then, we called it web design, and
hmm
then it became interaction designer. And then it became UX designer, and then I guess at some point, Facebook coined the name product design, and then combine all UX design and then UI design plus, I believe, the user research,
hmm
and then that person's job became being responsible from UX, UI, and user research under the name product design.
hmm.
But then again, that's so interchangeable. There are companies that they are looking for UX designers. You are looking at the job description, they are actually looking for a product designer.
Mm.
So it's blurry.
It is blurry. So
And
how do
yeah,
you define, if you were writing a description, what would you say is a product designer today?
I see product designer mostly like the way that I see the field. Um, I see a product designer working with a UX researcher,
Okay.
because UX research is just its own discipline. But whoever is doing UI design is actually thinking about the UX as well. Or
hmm
whoever is doing UX is actually thinking about UI as well.
hmm
But it's hard for this person to like step out of their uh, their zone and get into user research. I mean, I struggle with that. I see designer, well, they were successful, but they were either behind their UX, their product design, or they were behind their UX, like user research. So they were never, in my experience, again, maybe just there are mavericks out there and they are able to do it more comfortably. Um, so the way I see it, when I see product designer, it combines the skills of UI and UX designer.
But if you were looking at a position, you would want to make sure, if they said product design and it really is combining the user interface and the user experience together
Yes.
as one, that they also have somebody on the team that's a user researcher.
Yes. And then it never hurts to like know um, user research as well for them. It's okay, like it's okay to help the user researcher to go out there and interview people.
Is that typically what the user research you are doing is you're um, asking the people? It, can you explain what
So
somebody?
mostly what we did is since any networks is a is a big company, big corporation, they always had rules and regulations in place for interviewing users, and there was a department to handle that. But then we, as the digital design team, we had a group that did user testing using
Mhm.
usabilitytesting.com. I think
Oh,
its
okay.
name. Yeah. So we heavily relied on the testings we did in that platform. And then throughout the pandemic, just like it became the sole tool to interview users or just create A/B tests and then see what's resonated with better with the user.
So before the pandemic, there was user researchers, but you maybe weren't doing as much user research. They weren't pulling that in as much, or maybe overall in the
Let's
field it wasn't as highlighted. Or
so okay, we had this I think bi-weekly meetings,
Mhm.
and we will let's say I want to figure out, like I'm looking at, like, when as a product designer, that you're also looking at the data
Mhm.
analytics.
Mhm.
And then I'm more like interested in looking at numbers
Mhm.
plus the heat maps, because heat maps are like showing you that, like, where the users clicking the most,
Mhm.
and look at them looking at those clicks, and then you're looking at the data where that click is taking them. And then with analytic tools, you can actually go 3 deep or 4 deep clicks to see how far, like, were they successful finding what they were looking for?
Mhm.
And then if not, what was the reason that they were bailing out? Just like
Mhm.
why they were leaving the like the site and going for like some other, I don't know, like, since they leave, you don't know where they go.
Right, right.
Yeah. Um, so based on that, like, I'm seeing these people clicking on something that as a team, like, we see no value. We just put that link there because it was maybe a legal requirement,
Mm.
but we see that it's one of the top clicked sections. And then
Whoa.
we're like, what can we do so that click brings value to the user? It's not a
Mm.
dead end. We give them what they're looking for, plus
Mm.
what else we can do to keep them engaged.
Kind of like in the restaurant where people, well, while you're waiting for your table, you put them in the bar so that they're doing something. They're not just waiting, hovering over people, right? That could be,
Yeah.
in a way, you're adding value. I love that. I wouldn't have even thought about that. I would have been like, we got to hide that link somewhere so they stop
Yeah.
clicking on this.
I mean, there's value, just that they are clicking on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how we can add value to that?
So, what kind of things would you do to add value to that click? Because you weren't even realizing that that click was as um, impactful, or people were going to be clicking on it as much as they were.
So, well, let's say that we put this click off for some legal information,
Mm-hmm.
and they clicked on it. So first, you need to keep your promise. So we just like include the legal information, let's say, and then at the end of the legal information, isn't that end? We are like, okay, what we can do that they stay engaged.
Hmm. So keeping the relationship going instead of just
E-
cutting it off.
yes.
Hmm.
So maybe we just planted today's top shows, today's top movies, or
Hmm.
um, so again, it's we are like also trying to do, not to be I don't know, there's a book out there or there's a website that dark UX. We are
Mm-hmm.
trying not to be dark UX also. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we were just like helping the user click on something, go where they think they are going, see the information they think that they should be seeing, but then bring in extra value, creating a constant loop, I'm going to call,
Mm-hmm.
to keep them engaged. And then that also kind of like made us realize, like when the journey starts, like when the user's journey starts, we were thinking that the journey started the day or the time that they just actually, like, typed in the site or opened their app on the mobile device, or just opened the app on their TV. I was like, wait a second, like reading and learning from different resources.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a second, the journey starts somewhere else that we have no control of.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they were talking to a friend the day before, or maybe in the morning they just like saw something random, I don't know, somebody dressed in red or somebody dressed in nice suit. And maybe that triggered
Mm-hmm.
for them to come and see, look at the site. Or they associated what they saw with a show that they saw.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they thought that that show was on any network's, let's say, Lifetime
Mm-hmm.
brand site or History brand
Mm-hmm.
site. So that actually kind of like was an like mind opener for us.
Mm-hmm.
And like we were trying to organize the page structures or screen structures based on that. And at some point, we also start to rely on analytics
Mm-hmm.
heavily and trying to figure out a way to customize the experience based on the location they are at,
Mm.
based on the time of the day, and based on their history, browsing history
Mm-hmm.
of in our device, our applications, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
call. I think that that's a common practice. We are not discovering anything new, but then we are just bring that into our ecosystem.
It sounds like you're really thinking about that customer and you want to keep them in feeling welcome, feeling engaged and not rushed out. Like get your food and go kind of, right? Not that. You want to and you are thinking about all these little extra things that you could do that could keep them staying longer or could make that experience more. They're still getting to the information they wanted. They clicked the legal, we're keeping them on legal, but then we're giving them an option at the end to not end the experience. You're saying, okay, with these, you could watch these movies, or here's our most popular, or whatever. It's just that you're thinking about that extra, the added touch, I think, that high end touch that would happen in a high end restaurant or at a like a Disney World. I always think they're real high end because they're thinking about all these ways and but that seems like you've brought that mentality and that customer focus into designing a web page or designing an app.
Oh, that's very like on target again. A small example from restaurant experience. So the the table is finished. They ate everything. No, just you send the waitress that she's like, well, like going for asking them the dessert, like if they
Mm-hmm.
care. And so, no, we don't want any dessert. And then the waitress comes back to you, and then she's like, well, I really like them. Can we offer them something? Like, sure, let's do that. Let's say it's a couple, we just like put a setup like new silverware for a knife, a fork, a napkin, and everything. They're like, what's going on? And we give them only one giant strawberry.
Oh, that's awesome.
So at least that it's it's not the end.
Mm.
Like we are giving them an experience
Mm-hmm.
that they'll remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes even more funny. Just like if it's a table for four and you are just giving them one strawberry, that even becomes more funny. But
But
they
you were,
remember. They talk
yeah,
about it.
yeah. That's so how do you make it so that it's I guess maybe taking some of the information from the cookies or from their browsing data. So then if they were allergic to strawberries, you're not giving them strawberries, right? You are kind of them by their past experience or past interactions. And there's a way to do that. Obviously, as you talk to them, if you're their waitress and you're no, we can't do strawberries, but we can do watermelon or something. Um, but like in a web situation, the cookies are what are giving us the information about uh, how how would, because I think that is what we usually just think everybody gets the same treatment, right? And I think you're talking about this more higher end. Um, let's have multiple things that we could deliver them based on something. But you have to be
Yeah.
thinking instead of just treating everybody the same, or that surprise important?
Um, Not that important in
Okay.
the surprise is more like um introduced with art direction in for the design. Surprise is more like they're instead of giving them endless scroll of
Mm-hmm.
the same kind of content rows, surprise is after the third content row, introducing a different uh, row with a different kind of um, art directed treatment. Maybe instead of, let's say, six per row, you bring it down to two per row. And in that section, then you serve two different elements, whatever they are. And I just like to mention one thing. This is all coming out like the designers doing all this. Actually, the content, um, way that content are organized is usually done by the content producers.
Mm-hmm. And they're on the team.
They are on the team. And then we are more focused on providing them an infrastructure that enables them to organize the content they think that is going to work for the end user.
Is this when you would A/B test? Like they would say, we're going to try
Mm,
this content, or
mm,
no?
that's part of it too. It's just like they're all related. It's like in a product design, I'm going to go there. You're creating a three-dimensional experience.
Hmm.
While you're creating an experience for your end user, you're also creating an experience for the content producer, enabling them to organize the content the way that they think that it will fit best into user interest.
Hmm.
And then have them like provide them the ability to create playlists to promote their most like watch shows or most interested movies, or if it's a seasonal thing, let's say Christmas movies,
Mm-hmm.
how they can promote a Christmas movie section. So you're creating an experience for not only the user, also something for the content producer. But then it doesn't end there. Like then you need to figure out a way that whatever you're designing is easily translatable to the code.
Mm-hmm.
And so it will enable the engineers to use their templates or reuse their templates
Mm-hmm.
instead of just like creating and maintaining a new code templates.
All these custom coded things, right? That
Yes,
is
correct.
more difficult. Okay, so you've talked about content producers, user researchers, now engineers, because they're the people behind you're saying, hey, I want to do this. And if you don't have a good communication with them, then things can kind of break down, just like in the restaurant, front of the house has to talk to back of the house. So who else would be on these teams? So content producer, engineer, um, UX UI person, I guess the product designer,
Yeah.
user researcher.
And then you also have stakeholders.
Okay, tell me about those.
Like stakeholders can be only one stakeholder for an initiative you're designing for, or there might be multiple, let's say a marketing department. They want to market something.
Mm-hmm. This
And
is somebody
then
in the company, just
within
in
the
case
company,
somebody that doesn't know the term
yeah,
stakeholders, that they're wanting this to happen. They're coming to
Yeah.
you and say, "Hey, I want this done." They're the ones that are like, "This isn't what I imagined," or "This is exactly what I imagined," or something, right?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Okay.
And then there are instances that you have multiple stakeholders. Could be the marketing department or could be the ad sales department.
Mm-hmm.
And they may have conflicting interests.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when the product design becomes even more interesting. Like how you solve a problem that is going to keep everybody happy.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Uh, It's
It's
this never-ending challenge.
Is that the
It's
fun of it?
it's the fun of it. It's there are occasions it frustrates you because they are very adamant in their requests. And then like you know that with the experience you have, this may not work or this may
Mm-hmm.
conflict with and then you kind of like create the best possible scenarios and then bring them on the table and then you let them figure out their differences and then come to a conclusion how we are going to solve this problem with the given parameters.
Because sometimes it seems like they are very opposite what they're wanting. Maybe they
Well,
can seem at opposing. They want this in the front at the top, and the other one, well, I want this at the front at the top, or something. And I guess this is all the time. You're trying to keep everybody happy, but
well, it's not only for digital experiences. It's just I see that everywhere. Like
Mhm,
I don't know, like you go to a supermarket and then there are two vendors that they want their product to be displayed in that little corner.
mhm.
And then the store owner needs to come like find a solution to that. And then in the restaurant business, you have two very just like lovely clients that they just keep coming back. And then the same night they decided they wanted that table.
Right.
You're like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to do? In the restaurant business, it's easy. Just like you kind of like don't give the tables to both of them. Give them two different tables,
Mhm.
but not that easy. And I don't know.
So this comes into pleasing the stakeholder or pleasing the clients or pleasing the user. What about you have all these people that are on this team? How um, obviously people have to have good communication. A lot of work that you've done is been remote, especially since COVID.
Yeah.
How does communication come into play, and how do you work collaboratively when you're not in the same building?
Yeah. So before I like answer that, I like to like include that there's usually yes, marketing department, ad sales department, and maybe some other department, they have different interests.
Mm-hmm.
Programming department, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But there usually we come to a very solvable solution. It's not that everybody is like, oh, just like I'm the priority. No, just they're like we're all humans
Mm-hmm.
and we always find a solution that keeps everybody happy. So that's the like the pleasing part.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, for a while, you're like as a designer, you kind of try to figure out what's going to work best. But then when you talk to them, they're like, "Oh, that's we'll figure it out." Like, yes, that's reasonable. Whatever solution we saw, tell them, and then you talk to the other person. Yeah, that sounds good. Once they understand the constraints, trade-offs, and everything, that more, like, most of the time people agree on the solutions as long as you communicate with them. So then, if we come back to the communication part, especially in the pandemic, I don't think that was a big problem for us because we were already like working with our engineers were overseas. So we were already introduced to virtual meetings, just like way before pandemic.
Like how long before?
Gosh, I don't know, like since when the Zoom existed, I guess. There was a time that we just mostly talk on the phone. And then the virtual sharing came into place, then became like much easier. Um, so that wasn't new to us when we like went to pandemic and then lockdown and staying home, working from home. Uh, so I don't think we had a big problem with that. The only big problem was spending time in front of the computer, mostly on Zoom or Teams, back to back.
Because it just gets so tiring.
Yes, you are done with the meeting and then there's the next meeting.
So how do you deal with that now? Because I like, how do you make sure that you're not scheduling too many meetings? Can you hear the tornado warning thing?
Very likely.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to keep
Very.
it on mute.
So the back-to-back meetings right now, my today's world that I live in, um, I started again with not knowing that well, saying yes to every single meeting. But then I'm like, okay, this is not going to work. And I pick 2 days. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are my meeting days. So all the meetings happen those 2 days. Unless there's something very crucial that needs to be solved, yes, that's normal. And I end up talking to clients on that given day. And if there's some kind of fire to be put out, again, we jump on a call. But for and then that also like gives you the freedom to do what's your best, design, be a creator. It's just so that was my like solution to work in today's environment. And again, then once you have that in place, then creative part also becomes how am I going to organize that? That's like what I need to do to focus, stay creative, and then think about a, a project that I still have no idea what I'm doing or what I'm supposed to do. I think that it's called what's it called? I'm blanking here. The creative block.
Oh, yeah. You're blanking with
It's
creative block. Okay, yes.
yeah. So then, but I never looked at it as a creative block. It's more like it's part of the routine, part of the ecosystem, part of the churn. Yes, you don't have the answers. Like, like working on a client project is an example. We talked last Tuesday, the Tuesday before, and we decided that I was going to show them some designs this Tuesday. Until like Sunday, like noon, I had no idea. I'm looking at the copy, I'm looking at the content, like the photography that they provided me, videos they provided me. I have no idea. Um, I have something on the design file, but then like when I looked at it, just okay, this person is wearing pins. And then I'm like, let's start with those pins. I created those pins in design. And then I just like copied exactly what they were saying. And that became the starting point. After that, it trickled down. So I don't know if it's a creative block or just you need that moment to just like stare blank. And then you need to figure out a way to how you get yourself in. I guess one of your earlier podcasts, there was a person. Her name is Anne, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Hmm.
She talked about the creative block.
Yeah.
Am I mistaken? No, that's right.
She did collage. Is that the Anne?
No,
Oh,
the professor. I think she's.
yeah. Yeah. She's a professor. She's here. She's watching. She's the one with her
Oh,
class.
okay. So it's like she kind of like gave examples of yeah, it's a like we are phrasing it creative block, but it's a routine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You
And
do
then
it.
how
Yeah.
you figure out that routine for yourself.
Yeah. And especially just as a professional, but I love that it's a new, continually changing field. And especially with something that you have to always be curious. You said earlier, you're curious. And I think the curiosity allows you to be open and flexible, which I think is some other characteristics you said about um, a good product designer. I think, or a good designer, probably, or just a good teammate. But
Yeah.
I think you do. You know it's going to come, that block or the limit or the something that's going to step in the way. But you also have been there before, and you know that by Tuesday you're going to have something. On Sunday at noon, you're not in tears because you haven't found it yet. You just maybe you need to take a step back, or you need to go walk the park or do something else, because sometimes you have to get, and that's the way with anything. But I love that you are looking at systems, you're looking at how things are organized, how people are interacting with things, or how, I mean, a strawberry, something unexpected, but that's just laying around. This huge strawberry that we can't even do anything with because it's too big could be a really interesting, talkable moment for what is that strawberry for somebody else. What kind of projects, or what project has been, you sent me a ton of images, which was awesome. There were stuff from Viking quotes, and there was all kinds, and everything looks different again, which I loved. But what has been your favorite or your proudest thing that you've worked on or that you've solved as a problem, maybe?
I'm still waiting for that. Um, I don't know, everything like I do, I love it. But at the same time, I know that there's something new out there, just there's waiting for you to solve.
Mm-hmm.
So, but up to now, like again, it's like your kids, just like this is my favorite kid, or the other one is my favorite kid. Just but then you look at those your kids, and they are special in their own way, and you love them for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then projects to me falls into that category. It's hard for me to say this is my favorite one or that the other one
Mm.
is favorite one. One is my favorite, let's say, because they gave us only 2 days.
Oh.
You need to come up with something, and then you need to work, and then here are the photos, and we'll get you the copy. I was like, okay, all right. How do you start with that?
Yeah.
So again, you don't have any time to look, and then the some of the photos are just again, I'm blanking here. What do we call back in the day is like you print
Oh, the like
the
the for
the
placement only.
no, I prefer not to do for placement only.
I was just thinking
Uh,
about back in the
yeah,
day. What
no,
did we
no, but
call
no,
things?
back in the days, just when you do like when you take photos, you kind of like took all the films and put on one
Oh, a contact sheet.
contact sheet. Yes, thank you. So they provide like most of the images were contact sheets. Like, what do you do with those? Um, Luckily, just that that particular project, I partnered with another designer. And I have to say, she is far better than me in when it comes to creative direction. And she was a bit like, why don't we do those? Just like, why don't we put those contact sheets as photos? I was like, okay. And that became the premise of the site. Just like suddenly we figured out a way that contact sheets just became the most important element in the design. 2 days and with just only, I don't know, little bits flour and little bit, well, like a couple eggs, but no butter yet. We'll get you the butter later. Can you cook something? Sure. So that became an important project. But then the Viking codes, they send you just this time, they are like, okay, here are the images. Here's the Word document. Um, okay. And then you end up feeling something interesting. Like, I guess that becomes more like art direction. And if you were like, I guess that if you're a little bit better at creativity, just like being an art director, it becomes much easier to figure out what to do.
Mm-hmm. So going back to creative block, because that sounds like, especially when you're under the gun, you have 2 days or you have a few hours to do something, which is normal. That happens to all of us. Sometimes you have to just go with the safe thing because we don't have time to do this different new thing. Let's do something else that's kind of worked. But when you do have enough, but you're kind of in a creative block, what have you like in the situation? Sunday noon, you still don't have anything. You know it's going to be fine. Tuesday, you're going to still have your meeting. You're not canceling your meeting. But is there anything you do particularly to help you get into a more open state of receiving or looking, or do you take a walk? Like, what kind of things do you do to help break you out of that or help you with your block?
Okay. Luckily, I'm going to say luckily, Saturdays and Sundays, there's this flea market about 2, 3 blocks away from us.
Are you in Brooklyn?
No, Manhattan.
Okay. My sister lived in Brooklyn and there was the Brooklyn Police. So
Yeah.
I've been to that one. That one was
I live
cool.
in like around Flatiron
Mm-hmm.
district,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, very close. There's this Sunday flip that they turned this parking garage to flea market. So the interesting part is in these days, the flea market is flooded with jewelry, old watches. Who knows if they work or not? And then these pins that from like mostly for presidential candidates.
Mm,
So like I can comfortably say 60% or 70% of the flea market is flooded with the jewelry and just like pins and old watches.
mm-hmm.
So I guess that subconsciously those pins resonated with me. And when I came back home, when I was looking at the photos, I start to notice the pins
Mm.
that the person was wearing. That was the like the starting process, starting ignite, I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm. Do you normally go would you go to the flea market even if you weren't having creative block?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so but it's something that is you're not going thinking I've got to find a design
No,
solution, right? But you're
no.
just consuming, you're just taking in, and but it's a regular activity that you're doing. It's like maybe going to the library for somebody or going on a hike because sometimes people can find some things like that. So you are just really lucky that you have really awesome
Yeah.
flea market.
So this was an example.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's one of the ways that just the solution comes to you. And again, this it's all subconscious. I
Mm.
mean, I'm a big fan of the I think his name is Dan Ariely.
Mm-hmm.
Is he wrote like several psychology books or behavioral psychology
Mm-hmm.
books, analyzes people's behavior and given conditions. And it just he influenced me big time um, with my career, I have to say. Um, like reading his research and his findings, and then figuring out ways to incorporate those into my process.
I love that.
So he's like we are irrational beings. Even though we think that we are making rational decisions,
Mm-hmm.
that's not it. I look I after that I'm like, okay, that's normal. That you need to step out of your zone and do something, and then it will come back to you.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to ask you these last ones. These will be our lightning round.
Hmm,
Okay.
okay.
Um, what is a question that you would, if somebody asked you this on an interview, you would see it as a red flag? Or if something they would say, or even in a write
Oh,
up, I
it's
guess.
I if they ask me like how would you disagree like along those lines that like they're trying to find out how agreeable you are, how well you
Hmm.
work with people, and the way they phrase the question is um like if in a situation that if your boss or a colleague asks you to do something that you don't think right, how would you respond to it? So when they mention that, um, either it's just a common question that is in every single interview book. It's there's I'm like, okay, are you looking for a person, a creative person to challenge the status quo
Mm.
and bring the whatever exists right now to the next level, or you're looking for somebody that goes along with everything?
Mm.
And I'm also a huge believer of there's if there's a conflict, there's an opportunity to find a better solution. If both we are both agreeing on something, it's just becomes I don't know, like the design by committee, I'm going to
Mm.
say. It's okay to have differences.
Hmm.
It's okay to have just different perspectives. The only thing is just like then in the corporate environment, usually, even let's say I'm going to go that far, the human nature, we like to get along. We would
Hmm.
like to get along. We don't want to just like go head to head.
Right.
So we will always find a solution. So when they ask me that question, I'm like, oh, all right, do I want to work with these people?
Right. Okay. That's a good one. All right. So, um, in similar way, how much of a role does empathy or emotion play in your role as a product designer? Is it the same as your role as a graphic designer or web designer?
Um, so emotions and empathy. Again, I'm looking at it in a three-dimensional or four-dimension.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have empathy for the product itself.
Mm.
Also the teams that supporting that product, and also the end user.
Hmm.
So like to me, it's 80 or 90% of what we do. You need to have empathy. You need to have emotions. The biggest like the if I create a product that makes the user happy, they are so pleased with the experience, yet it's difficult to update by the content producers, and
Mm.
also makes the engineers spend countless hours.
Right.
It's kind of like a failed, I don't know, I look at it as like
It needs to be
fail.
a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
The end user, the content producer who's going to have to be updating it, and then next time
Yes.
we change something, then we want, like you were saying, the engineers created this kind of structure. You don't want them to have to throw down the old structure and create a whole new
Yeah.
structure because it's not efficient. So um this is it's not about your favorite thing that you've ever done, but what's your favorite part of product design? So you, in the very beginning, we talked about like thinking about, okay, well, it has these different layers, and we first just put up a hello, and then the next is hello, and like you can kind of ease into it. Or maybe it's that it's always fixable, or it's always, you can always make it better, or I don't know. But what is your favorite? Is it a part of the process, or is it the problem solving, or is it how the team works together? Or what is your favorite part of product design?
Um, I think kind of all, but then they all come together at a certain point of the process,
Mm-hmm.
which is finally just like you went through all that hurdle and then you finish your designs on your favorite design tool.
Mm-hmm.
And engineers are also getting ready their code base to support. By the way, that I prefer to work with like full transparency,
Mm-hmm.
including if I'm in a team or if I'm working solo,
Mm-hmm.
everything's open. You can see designs in any given space. If you're an engineer, you have an idea what kind of mess I'm creating. So you can just either ask me questions or prepare your code base or to your templates based on that.
Mm-hmm.
I like to work in transparency, but then my favorite part, either solo or with teams, once I've like the design is like we don't have to do any more designs, and your design is being fleshed out in code, and you're seeing the real thing actually, because the designs we create in the design tool is semi-real thing,
Mm-hmm.
but when they are translated in code, that you're looking at the actual living, breathing like designs that you,
It's the heartbeat.
yeah,
It's
heartbeat,
working,
yes,
right? Right.
yes. So from that moment on to somebody press the go live button is, I think, that the more exciting part for me, because you work with every single team to fine tune the product. You're working with engineers to help them translate your designs to a perfection.
Mm.
You are working with, let's say, marketing team because of some constraints. You are not going to be able to, let's say, shape the product in a way that they envisioned in this iteration. So you're talking with them to, hey, this is fine. Is this just like we go with this, and then in 2 weeks we are going to ship the full, and then same goes with the some other departments that involved.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it becomes like, for me, it's more exciting.
So what kind of companies have you worked for that hire product designers? Like entertainment. I mean, the A&E,
So,
like
uh,
startups or.
okay, it's a very interesting question, by the way, and I'm confused. Hear me out. Why I'm confused? I still get the communication newsletters from LinkedIn, Indeed, and God knows how many other I signed up for. And today, the startups are looking for product designers, and then the large corporations, they always have a product design team
Mhm.
in place, and they are constantly looking for product designers. But in these days, I start to see product design roles like advertised in smaller establishments, let's say a real estate agency,
Hmm.
and then let's say in a let's say fashion boutique chain.
Huh.
Um, so it is becoming interesting. Either like I look at the descriptions,
Hmm.
some of them they know what you're looking for.
Hmm.
Some of them they're like, okay, we are looking for a product designer who is very well versed with Adobe Creative like CC,
Hmm.
Adobe CC, and especially on After Effects and Premiere. I'm like, okay, but they are motion graphics tools, and you're looking for. But again, it is just. I'm saying I'm guessing that it's overused product design.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of different, um, you really you can't just say I'm going to apply for everything that's product designer because they're really different. And I think some companies don't know what they're asking for, or they want something that doesn't exist in one person. I think sometimes.
Oh yeah, I'm guessing that that's the trend right now.
Yeah.
Oh, you need a product designer.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So, last question is, what is next for you? Do you have a dream project that you would have always would love to work on? Maybe it is solving something or working for a specific kind of user or like that kind of customer. Do you have a dream project?
I don't have a dream project, and the projects I care more in these days is like it has to have a meaning.
Mm.
Um, yes, let's say back in the days, I worked in a large corporation, and occasionally I took side gigs, and side gigs were mostly related to some codes.
Mm.
Um, I used to work with this gentleman that he was very active in like when the first Black Lives Matter
Hmm.
movement happened, and he wanted to do something. He just like, and overnight we got together, and then we ended up creating a small initiative for that. Like that type of projects, like they interest me more versus just creating yet another, I don't know. Like, and another thing interests me, I shall mention that. I just prefer not to design anymore a cookie cutter website
Mm.
or cookie cutter experience. It needs to have some kind of like storytelling aspect to it.
Mm.
And today's tools actually and improvements in the tools, they are enabling designers to do these things. And I don't know, like if you like, I think that Webflow is a tool that provides that to designers, since it's just they advertise themselves like no code tool, and
Right.
also another one, Framer.
Hmm.
So they actually give designers creative powers to almost do anything they can imagine. They have libraries, and then you can actually create animations. They have built-in animation
Mm-hmm.
tools. So with those, sky is becoming the limit. All you need is your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So like those kind of type of projects, like I have a little more control over uh, creating and delivering an interesting experience.
Mm.
Tell a story instead of like, okay, there's an image, scroll down, there's some text. Okay, then there are three options,
Right.
and then an FAQ. Okay, I prefer not to do that. I prefer to, even if that's the content, how I can make it interesting, how it can
Mm.
tell a story.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I like
Yeah.
that. It's more of an experience instead of it's the strawberry at the end of the meal, right?
Oh yeah.
That they
Oh yes.
didn't instead of just this is your food, here's now your bill and leave. So I love
Um,
that.
so speaking of strawberry, strawberry was one of the examples. That's even like more fun. Um, our house specialty dessert was tiramisu.
Mm-hmm.
And so imagine that you're just given like 2 by 2, 2 inches by 2 inches, tiramisu to a table of four with 4 spoons.
So
They can only get a bite.
right. Somebody could eat the whole thing.
Well, that happened.
That's interesting. That's it.
Hmm.
It's a exercise in sharing. It's an exercise in, um, I guess, self control because it's so good. They might have to order. If they have a bite, they might want more.
That happened too.
I think those are great experiences that you're able to create. I want to make sure everybody knows how to get in touch with you. So they can find you at your website, which is kayhan.me.
Yeah.
You can on Twitter or X, you are at VanTurk. On
Yes.
Dribble, you're Kayhan, Kayhan. And then CodePen, which I don't even know what that is. So I was going to ask you. So codepin.io/Kayhan/pins/public. So tell us what CodePen is
So
before we let you go.
CodePen is boilerplate environment that you can design with code. They have these pockets, I'm going to say. You can write your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and and then there is the browser simulator that you can see the results immediately as you just write your HTML.
Hmm.
You see, okay, you said hello, and then you immediately just say hello. And then if you update your CSS, add colors, and make the font size larger or use different fonts, you can immediately see the results.
Cool.
So it's a huge playground
Hmm.
for um, what's called, I guess, dev designers, developer designers,
Mm-hmm.
or dev designers, or design engineers.
Mm-hmm.
I love it because I don't know if I mentioned to you, I you on the design tools, traditional design tools, you come to a point that like, is this going to work responsibly? Responsively.
Mm-hmm.
You want to kind of like see that happening before you just give it to engineer. So you want to make sure that the engineer is translating what you envisioned
Mm-hmm.
correctly. And like it's my number two go-to design tool right now, since it's the most fashionable one. Figma is the
Hmm.
design tool I use for static designs. But
Hmm.
then when I need to just like, I need to see this in reality, then I just translate those decisions that I made on Figma into CodePen. I start just like writing the HTML, CSS, and if it's required in JavaScript, I also write JavaScript.
Mm, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, Kayhan, thank you so much. You have such
Thank
a
you.
cool, interesting story. And we made it through the tornado drill, and I
Yes.
was able to just keep it muted. So yay, I'm so glad. But thank you for coming early, and thank you for everybody who came early. We started 15 minutes early
Nice.
because we had a tornado drill and I wasn't sure how loud it was going to be or if somebody was going to pull me out of my office. So next week is Thanksgiving. There's no show next week. We have 2 more episodes until the end of the year. And Chris and I are getting caught up on all of our past episodes. So you guys will be seeing past episodes being visible. So I released one today. Another one will get released on Sunday night. At midnight. So I guess really it's Saturday night. Um, and then we'll have 2 until we get them all finished so that we start the year off on the right foot next year. And then the next episode is going to be, I think it's the 3rd or the 4th, whatever that Wednesday is. I can't tell. Whatever the day is, it's a Wednesday. It maybe the 3rd, 6, 5. No, it's the 4th. And that will be Dee and John Ingalls. And I am excited that they are going to be our last ones on the product design. They are on the other spectrum where they're creating products and they've learned a lot about the products. They have 2 companies and they're going to tell us about the company that they've been working with national parks. They also are like you. They love working and worked for many years for lots of other clients, doing all kinds of things, but they really have found that they really love to do things that have a lot of meaning to them, and they love the national parks. So they have a company that is focused on the national parks and the art and seeing all the beautiful pieces that are out there, or places, I guess, that are out there. So Kayhan, thank you so much for doing this with me. And I'm just really glad to know you. You have great insight, and I love the way your brain thinks and the way you solve problems and the way that you're curious and nothing's all, you're like, I'll figure it out. And I love that. So I love that you have that attitude, and I hope it rubs off on lots of other people.
Thank you for having me, Diane.
Anytime. And
Yes.
I will see you guys. I hope y'all have a happy Thanksgiving and have a great week.